Okay, I'm going to show you how to crate this iPod. So we're working in box 1 here, and it says produce a crated iPod drawing. Please don't rub out your construction lines. An iPod with no construction lines will get 0 marks. You've got 5 marks in total, and if you have a look down the bottom here, you get marks for doing a crate. You get another mark for accurate crating. If you manage to do the ellipse, which you can see on the right hand side here, which is where you're looking to sort of take your guide from, I suppose. And if you do an accurate ellipse, then you get a mark for that. And if the proportions are sort of more or less accurate, then you get a mark for that as well. Okay, so crating is all about just making a crate like a kind of a box, and inside the box you can draw the iPod, and it helps you to do get the lines all lined up. So if you look at the right hand side here, we're going to start in this little area down here, and we're going to produce this as a crate over here. So roughly speaking, if I start a point there, draw a horizontal line, and that first line there is what we're looking for. So judge roughly where you think that's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen about there. So I'm going to draw a little vertical line going up there like that. And remember, these are guidelines, they're crate lines, so you draw them very, very lightly, because you don't really, they're just to help you. And we can see that this is going to be very useful for us, because it's going to be the same kind of thing as that. So we can take all the angles, which should be 30 degrees. See how I'm kind of like lining it up with that angle there? It's parallel to that. Now I'm looking at the thickness of this. I think it's up to you really to make a judgment of how thick you think that is. I think that looks about right. And then let's divide that line again in half, because there's some kind of a split line there, which you can see running down there. Maybe even if we could sort of get an idea of height by coming across here and saying, right, that's how high we want it to be. Maybe drop that down a bit there. And the width, well, you know what, you could even go and actually measure that. That's 3.5. So we're taking all our dimensions from that right hand drawing there. And then a vertical line. Okay, so that's the other side of it. Now this line here needs to be reproduced up here, parallel. You see, I'm just sliding it up and trying to keep it parallel as I move up there. And when I get to there, do the line. So that's really the front face of it. Let's now get this. I know there isn't a line here, but let's sort of get that line. You can see the example that's drawn here on the left hand side. That's what we're looking for. So if we draw that up there, and then draw a similar one there, so you can see the whole box is starting to come together now. It's as a crate, call it a crate. And I'm going to take that top line across there, so that's comes off that one there, doesn't it, down the side. So let's take that there. And so we've got the shape of it now. Now let's get the screen in. We're just going to make some judgments here. I mean, I could go and measure, but you know what, I just want to do this quickly because it's an exam. So as long as I'm more or less accurate, I'll pick up the marks. And top of the screen there. Okay, I suppose if I wanted to measure how far the screen comes down, it's 30. So I'm going to make that 30. That'll help, I suppose. I'll make that line parallel to all the other lines we've been using. So that's the size of our screen. Now this is tricky, but we're going to pick up marks for it. So why don't we put like a center line. You can see on the created example here, a center line goes right the way through that circle in order to create those two concentric circles. So make a judgment, or you could measure it if you wanted to be exactly halfway. I'm just going to guess this. I'm thinking it's about there. And then we need to create a square in which inside which we're going to create the circle, the round dial thing. Okay, so it's kind of looking, you can see they sort of look more or less equal proportionally. Right, so this part here, we just replicate here. Okay, and then the same underneath there, we're going to do there. It's exactly the same, but the opposite, if you see what I mean, there. And then this rounded part at the bottom here goes in here, rounded part, and then the same up here. So it kind of looks a bit like that. Yeah, and then you could construct the same in the middle. I'm just going to whack that in like that. So it's almost there now. What I want to do now is I just want to round the corners, soften the corners to make it look a bit like the one on the right hand side. So I'm going to just use my judgment there to kind of round the corners like that. This top corner here is going to go like so. This bottom corner like that. This bottom corner like this. Now that corner and that corner is fine, but you see what's happened here? When you round this off, you kind of like snip that edge off, and the same down here, you snip that edge off. So we need to get another little line in there just to complete the shape of it, and then it all makes sense. So kind of just pulling the corner off, and then our last little bit is just to round off the back edges like that. Okay, now I've got my drawing. If I want to sort of just neaten it off now, I can just like run around the outside with a nice fat heavy line, so we can still see all the faint created lines, which are the guidelines to help us, but we've also got this nice heavy line around the outside, which kind of makes the product stand out a little bit, makes the drawing a little bit easier to understand. Maybe run down the main lines there and there as well, remembering to curve it as it hits the bottom there. So that's fairly accurate. Maybe just touch the screen in a bit. Yeah, we're going back over lines that we've done just to sort of beef them up a little bit. And there we are. So it looks pretty much like that. Okay.